Hey guys, Drew Does Trucks back with the silver 2005 Mustang GT that we're trying to build into a drift project. As you can see, we've got some work done since our last video. Today what I've been working on is swapping, well not swapping, but installing this Villians rear lockout kit. And the way this works is it goes in place of your factory clutches and your limited slip differential. And it replaces the steels and the clutch material with these cut out plates and basically forms a mini spool, and I'll show you how that works. So this is how your factory diff works. It has these steels, right? It has friction discs that have a clutch material on them. I'm actually surprised that these are in such good shape. This car has 120,000 miles on them, so this is your friction material, and when you see where the old ones will be scorched, or you'll see this peeled up or broken off, or it'll be down to the metal. And these actually have a surprising amount of meat left. But anyway, these go together and they make this pack, okay? And it has to be a certain thickness to work. So there's your pack. And even though the diff oil put on this diff was pretty clean, these are really cooked and stuck together. So these steels will alternatively have ears here and here that lock into the outer portion of the I think it's called the carrier in your axle. And then they have these inner steels like this. They have these splines that lock onto your axle shaft. And then these are the actual, this is what goes to your side gears. So what this kit does is it replaces that, right? You have a separate piece. This has no ears on the outside, but splines on the inside. And then you have these pieces that have ears but no splines. Simple enough, right? It replaces these. All these pieces have ears and splines. So basically, instead of in a normal limited slip like this, a clutch limited slip, your carrier is held in one place and your axle spins, and the splines are going to lock. You can actually see the spline of it. So the splines are going to lock onto the side shaft, and they're going to spin. So as one tire starts to spin, you have this moving, and these ears are going to hold this entire assembly in place here. So that generates friction and heat between them. As it heats, it engages that friction material, and that's what gives you your limited slip effect. So what these do is there's no slip, because as soon as the axle tries to turn inside of these splines, it's one piece with these ears. It replaces the entire thickness of your clutch pack, I believe. They didn't have any instructions, which I think they could do a little better with instructions. But I really like the concept of the kit. Basically just turns your factory limited slip into a locked diff, like a full two-way locker. And if you ever want to go back, you just take this out, put these back in, you have a clutch type limited slip again. So that's what the appeal was for me, just in case I do want to do some track days or something with this car. All I have to do to swap back from a locker to a limited slip is drain the fluid and swap these gears out again, which Chrisfix has a really good video that shows step by step the exact same steps that I use to get here, as far as popping the cover off, draining your fluid, and getting access to these. It just requires a magnet, an 8mm wrench, and a couple other little things, but they basically come out really easy and swap out. And as you can see, I've even done his paint trick. I think it's a good idea if you're trying to keep track of stuff. This kit, I can't remember how much it was. I picked it up like under $100. Well worth it to me. Also, you know, you don't have to weld on your carrier, so if you don't have a welder, like, that's not an issue for us. But if you don't have a welder, this is just a super easy way to do this. Installs with hand tools. The only thing you have to do to install it is drain your diff fluid. Really, it's the only hassle. And pull your axles. If you are building a drift car, this is a really good time to install a dual caliper kit. At this point in time, I've spent so much money so fast on this car, just trying to get all the little other things, that we're going to wait until at least the off season to try and look at a dual caliper kit. We're doing pretty well just to have new brakes to put on the car. So anyway, we're going to get this kit in, and hopefully I'll be able to test it out this weekend at the Drifters of December. But I did want to show you guys this product. Didn't see any videos on it. I really like the idea of it. I know people have been using it with success in these cars. So installing it is literally as simple as pulling these out, dropping these in, and putting them back in the car. So I'm going to measure the thickness and make sure that we're putting the same, enough thickness in here to work. All right, guys, I looked up the specs. Your minimum clutch pack thickness is 0.64 inches. The performance pack Ford listed as 0.655, so that's kind of like a max. The Villians pack, sorry, there's an extra shim added there. So our Villians pack here, squeezed all the way in, is 0.58, right? So it doesn't meet the minimum thickness. So you're gonna have to shim it. We need to get it at least up to 0.64, ideally closer to the 0.655. These space out your side gears. So the stock clutch pack has your clutches and your steels, and it has these shims, and they come, this is a pure shim right here. They come in a bunch of different thicknesses, and in fact all 4 of these that are in the stock pack, some of these are steels and that one's just a shim. It really doesn't matter because all you're doing is spacing the pack out. But what you'll see is if you add the thinnest one here, that takes us up to 0.62, which is still not enough for Ford spec. So if we toss out our thinnest one and we bring in one of the slightly thicker ones, that brings us to 0.067. And then I think there's a couple different thickness shims. I think the other thin one gets us to like 0.06. 0.066. All right. Yeah, so that's 0.066. It's really close, but maybe just a little too thick. So anyway, that's where things are. I'm going to take this one apart. I'm going to measure it, and then I want to measure this and make sure these are identical. There's probably some minor variation. You're talking about thousandths of an inch. But I'm hoping that between the 2 of them, I can stack shims or whatever I need to do to get between these 2 numbers on both sides. I would like to be. Probably not super critical, but if they do, like I said, apparently they do space out the side gears in your differential, so you don't really want them to be too crazy off. All right, I thought this was kind of interesting. So your left side has one very thick steel. You can see it there. And then we have that very thin shim, and then 2, we'll call them like regular thickness steels. So 4 total. And then the right side has 1 regular, 2 regular, 4 regular total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 thin shim. I thought that was interesting. This side has that one like double thickness one, and then 2, and this one just has 4 regular thickness ones. I don't know if that means somebody's rebuilt this. Both of these are 0.0644, and I guess a brand new stock one should be 0.0645. So they're very, very close to what an OEM stock pack would be. So anyway, we'll just have to mess with this a little bit. I want to try and get them as close to that as we can, stick these gears back in. All right, so I've been swapping shims back around. We have the 2 thinnest ones. This pack, the right side pack, is actually a little thicker from Villians. So we have that at 0.653, which is it's pretty much exactly where we want it. And then this side, because we don't have any of those thinner shims, we have to use that thicker one. We have that down to 0.66, and that is 1/100th of an inch higher than we're looking for. All right, by carefully going through and measuring the thickness of the Villians ones, they vary in thickness. It's so close. I mean, they're down to the 100th of an inch, but I have them almost identical. They're just a couple hundredths off per side. So that's going to be as good as it gets, and we're going to reinstall these on the car. I did see an update in one of the groups I'm in that he has added these for alignment as you slide them in. So I don't think it actually matters which way they go on. These just have to be together for them to line up. So, and then there's work. They work down onto the splines like that. So actually, probably flip these over and put those other ones on the outside since they're not biting any spline. These are ready to reinstall. Button the dip back up and you're good to go. We should be drifting with a full locked limited slip. So, like I said, we'll follow Chrisfix's method to just slide these back in and put everything together. I'm waiting on a diff cover. I put the same aluminum thin diff cover that everyone puts on, mainly just to get the fill ports. It has a drain and fill port, so it's much easier to handle than trying to drop this cover every time. I reinstalled the lockout plates and the side gears. Now, like I said, I haven't messed with the rear ends a ton, but I'm using the Chrisfix video as my install. And then when he's done at the end, he inserts these are called your spider gears, back up in there, and he puts them both in and then spins, right, because a limited slip. So these gears spin at different speeds. So he puts them in opposite sides and then rotates the axles to drop them back in. Well, that doesn't work because the axles are in, these are locked out. So when these spin, the whole thing spins together, the carrier spins, it's locked out. It's just like it has a spool. So I was sitting there looking at it and I'm like, well, you can't put the side gears in. And I was like, well, you don't need them. They don't do anything because this is locked out. It's like having a locker. It's like having a spool. A spool just replaces this entire piece with a solid piece. So I messaged Nate, the guy who makes this kit, and I said, hey, do I need those? And we talked about it, and he said, no, you don't need them because they don't do anything, and there's no way to install them because these are locked in place. So you just cannot get those spider gears back in. So what you do is you just reinstall with the with your spring and your cross shaft here, and that locks them in place. That holds it in. You reinsert your C-clips unless you're running a C-clip eliminator kit, and you don't need these side gears anymore. Now you want to keep them, so each one of these has a washer on the back. So like for me, I'm going to zip tie these together with that, you know, like this or whatever. I'm going to run a zip tie through them, and then I'm going to keep them so that if I want to go back to the limited slip, I have all the parts. I'm going to be keeping the clutches and stuff too. Just keep them all in a box together so that if I ever do want to go back to a limited slip, I can reinstall these because you will need them if you ever want to go back, just like you'll need the clutches and stuff that we took out. So we don't want to waste any of that stuff. We want to keep it around. If that's the whole appeal of this kit, is the ability to go from being locked to going back to a limited slip. So that is one area in which this differs, but basically at this point I just got to stick my spring and my my retainer pin back in, and the differential part of this install is done, and my C-clips. All right, guys, our install is finished up. We got our C-clips in, we have our retainer spring, we have our cross pin, and we have our bolt back in with new Loctite torqued down. So the only difference from stock is that we no longer have those spider gears in there. And as you can see, when you grab one side and spin, the entire assembly spins together. There is no more rotation along its axis. You no longer have spider gears that spin around. This is now a locked spool. Both sides are locked together to the carrier. So like I said before, the only thing left to do is get our new cover on there. I'm not going to put this stock one back on and fill it back up with $50 worth of fluid when I want to put an aluminum one on. I have a new one of the multi-layer steel reusable gaskets, and I didn't even check the fill port on here. A lot of times those get stuck. I'm just gonna plan on using the one in the diff cover. So anyway, that's it for this install. I'm gonna go ahead and put my brakes back on tonight, and then hopefully the cover will come in the next day or two and I can finish up this install.